Another day, another class, another reason why you suck at League of Legends. Since this is a college course, I think you guys should get the idea that every topic we talk about kind of transfers to the next class. So again, we will talk about some old stuff, but also new things to help you as a beginner, because this is a beginner unit. We are almost done with this unit, as we really just need to talk about now just two roles, mid and ADC. Sorry to all you crying all game ADCs, but we will talk about the mid lane today. But before we start class, as always, at the end of class, if you guys have any micro or macro questions or a VOD review you would like for free, I will be available. So, the mid lane. Mid lane is one of the most impactful roles on the map, ranked 3rd or 2nd on impactfulness. I feel like support can kind of tie it when it comes down to impactfulness if played correctly, but jungle will always be number 1. One simple reason why mid lane is so impactful is because it is in the middle of the map. So going towards other areas is a lot easier for them because it takes a lot less time. One difference between this lane and the other lanes is that it is very short, which is a big factor on the champions that usually play in this role. Champions that either want more survivability because the towers are so close, and champions who try to counter that survivability by offering extreme burst damage to kill them before they reach their tower. This isn't the only reason why these types of champions are played in this role though. When they are in the middle of the map, they need to be able to leave and help the other lanes. Having a champion that is good at pushing in waves to leave lane and or offer a bunch of damage will usually be a better mid laner than a champion who can't do those things. But let's go over some of those champion classes right now. Honestly, the mid lane has a wide range of champions, from assassins to mages to tanks and fighters. So let's go down the list. So first we got assassins. Assassins are, as they sound like, squishy, extremely mobile, burst-oriented champions that kill squishy targets very quickly. They have an extremely high skill ceiling and a very steep learning curve, but picking up one of these champions will improve a lot of your fundamentals, as they either get popped or pop someone else. And a lot of factors go into who gets popped. Some champions in this class are like Zed, Katarina, and Akali. If you're not looking for such a very hard start to the game, probably don't pick assassins, but if you're up for the challenge, you could definitely go for it. If you still want a more easy start, but still want a high skill ceiling, mages are definitely the way to go. Some of these champions are quite easy and don't have crazy ceilings, but other champions in this class require a bunch of skill and talent. You really can't group all the mages into one section, so let's split them up. The 3 subclasses of mages are artillery mages, battle mages, and burst mages. Artillery mages are like artillery in real life. They have extreme ranged abilities that slowly dwindle down the HP of the opponent, leading up to a kill or kicking them out of lane. But these champions are heavily countered by positioning, as one wrong move spells their doom, as they don't have a lot of mobility, peeling tools, or defenses to get them out of sticky situations. Some champions that are in this class are Vel'Koz, Ziggs, and Hui. The next mage class we have is battle mages. These mages have a lot shorter range and like being in the middle of the fray. They have more sustained area damage, which can hit multiple targets than other types of mages, and have a significant defensive capabilities that lets them stay alive longer in the fight. Some champions in this class are Malzahar, Vladimir, and Victor. Lastly, we have burst mages. These types of mages aim to single out vulnerable targets by locking them down with CC and follow up with a devastating barrage of damage from range. They are the strongest when they use their full kit of spells executed perfectly, and they are most vulnerable when they don't have anything up in their kit. Some champs in this class are Ahri, Annie, Lissandra, Syndra, and LeBlanc. The mage class has a bunch of different playstyles, and if you're considering picking it up, you should look into which class has the best playstyle for you. The last 2 classes are tanks and fighters, and they're not as big classes as the other 2 because they're just not as many champions that go in the mid lane that are tanks and fighters. We already talked about tanks in our beginner guide to top lane video, so go watch that if you are interested about learning what that means for tanks. So we won't go over them, but the only tanks that generally play mid are Galio and Malphite. Simple as that. And it's the same thing with fighters. We talked about them in the top lane video, so again, go watch it. The most common champs in the mid lane that are fighters are Yasuo, Yone, and Pantheon, but there are other champions that still can hold up really well. Now that we know all the classes, let's talk about laning phase. So just like every other laning role, level 2, 3, 6 advantage, quick refresher, just look at them, make sure you remember them, and wave control, how if you have a wave pushing into you with more minions, try to play more passively. If you have more minions than them, try to play more aggressively because you will probably win that fight, are just topics you need to understand to be better at the laning phase. We talked about that in our laning phase guide videos. And same thing with keeping track of dangerous abilities, which we talked about in our top lane beginner guide. But let's try to understand the different concepts that mid lane has that can heavily improve your gameplay. For the early game, let's ask ourselves a simple question every time we come back to lane, or every time a new wave comes into lane. Do we want to kill our lane opponent, or do we want to push and roam? This simple question is the basis of what happens during every wave in the mid lane. It can really be as simple as that, but obviously a lot of factors goes into if you can do one or the other. For most champions, it's going to take at least 3 or 4 rotations of waves of full of poking and trading to put someone into kill range. So how can we help ourselves put someone into kill range? We already talked about it before, but making the enemy work for every CS they go for. And also cooldowns. Every champion has abilities. Those abilities have cooldowns. If you punish those cooldowns, they have a less fighting chance over you because they have one less ability than you. So it's very important to keep track of that. Oh yeah, and if you really want to learn more about that stuff, go watch the support beginner guide video if you want more information. But another great trick to help not only poke the enemy, but also push the wave in to get wave prio is by getting double value out of your abilities. Try to hit the enemy and the wave with your ability at the same time. For example, here's how you do it with Syndra's Q. You can see how I not only hit the enemy, but also hit the caster minions right here, which makes it push into the enemy more because these are becoming lower health minions die faster and it'll push faster into them. Simple as that. Since pushing in waves gives you priority, you can be around the map a lot more by adopting this easy to use technique. And that is pretty much all I have for the early game for the mid lane. The only other easy tip is just to roam with your jungler for more powerful roams. So if your jungler is topside and he wants to go for a top gank, maybe match him. So let's move on to the mid/late game on what it'll generally look like. At this stage of the game, the ADC should have moved into the mid lane while you would take one of the side lanes. Just like the early game, there are 2 different options you can do. You can catch and group or catch and split. We haven't really talked too much about split pushing, and we will in the future. So if you are interested, please consider subscribing to get a heads up when I am streaming or when the video will be released. But for now, just know that if you aren't playing with your team and just pushing on the side lane, that is considered a split push. For catching and grouping, what you will do is catch the wave that is heading towards your turrets. But only pushing one wave will not stop it from pushing again into your tower. You need to clear more waves. How do we know that we pushed enough waves that it will start pushing into the enemy? Simply push the wave past the middle mark of the lane. Once it is pushed past that mark, it'll always naturally start pushing into the enemy. But why do we even want to catch waves and push them back in the enemy? What is the reason we want to catch waves at this turret and then push them back into the enemy? What is even the reason? What happens if we don't do this? So you're gonna lose all of this CS that you just crash into your tower. So you're gonna lose all of that. You're gonna lose all that free gold that just crashed into your tower. And if we know anything about minions and turrets, the wave will start bouncing back into the enemy. Very slowly, actually. The wave will get bigger and bigger on your side, making the enemy lose less minions as it starts pushing harder into them. This is great for the enemy team because all they need to do is to catch the wave before it hits their turret. So they have a bunch of free time to do other things around the map, and all that free gold will be waiting for them. The more waves we push into the enemy after catching it at our turret, the less time the enemy has as they need to return to that wave. So how does this strat kind of work? Since the wave is taken care of and is slowly pushing an enemy, this gives us some free time. It gives us priority to help objectives, go mid for a fight, or maybe get a pick in the enemy jungle. Just like everything in League, you have a time limit though. You or somebody else on your team needs to return to that lane to catch the next wave crashing into your turret. How fast or slow that happens depends on what the enemy team did. If they let it crash into their turret, you will have a bunch of time. If they catch the wave and pushed it past the halfway mark, you have less time. So pay attention to what happens after you do this strat. And that is basically all I have for the beginner mid lane guide. But thank you for coming to class, Abrar. Thank you so much. Please consider liking the stream if you haven't liked it already. But now that class is over, I don't think anyone is here except you, Abrar, or if you're still here, I don't even know. Is anyone